And Minister, I'd like to welcome you and congratulate you on your new brief. I think it is a challenge and you will be judged by it. I thought Deputy O'Queeve made a good point last night when he said that the government backbenchers are very fond of blaming Fianna Fáil for decisions that they took in office. Well, you're in office now, and if you don't agree with what they did, you're in a position to change that. And I think you will be judged by that. Look, it is the case that the ability of people with disabilities and their families to access facilities and services so that they can fully participate in society to the best of their potential is an upward struggle. And the experience has been in the lifetime of this government that that struggle hasn't been made easier, but in actual fact has been made more difficult as conditions have deteriorated, and really they have to engage in an almighty battle even for the basics. And I mean, we could be here all night listing them out, but you know, hugely long waiting lists for vital services such as speech and language, occupational therapy, physiotherapy and so on are often long lists, but often not available at all in parts of Ireland. We have the freeze on public sector recruitment, the non-replacement of staff who go on maternity leave and so on, and families being left with nothing, with the crisis in many ways in the mental health section, with the central mental facility in Dundrum being really not fit for purpose and should be absolutely the case of an immediate independent review into its facility and staffing levels. The points made by Deputy Wallace about the new capacity bill, the fact that we haven't signed in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. All of these are hugely important, but I think, to me, it's the treatment of children with disabilities that's particularly abhorrent and where the government has really fallen down. And one family sent me a letter there a while ago, and they started by quoting from the Autism Task Force of about 15 years ago, and it was a very telling statement, I thought, where they said that the report said that the implications are clear. This is a vulnerable, high-risk group in urgent need of help, and in fact, they are more disabled in many ways by the attitudes of society, the neglect of state services and the lack of support than they are by their core disability. And that's the point. We could be doing and implementing measures that transform the lives of people with disabilities, and we're not. And that starts at the education process and in the schools. And there's been enormously detrimental changes at school level in terms of the SNA circular, which has changed the whole criteria. The fact that students now, if they're very, very lucky, they may get access to 4 hours SNAs. The fact that professional reports are not being taken into account by the CNOs, and many other instances. And the people who wrote to me made the point that they said, we've listened to the previous Minister for Education tell us that the budget in disability is the same as on Garda Síochána. They said we need a truly independent statutory inspection, root and branch review, exactly like what is been undertaken in on Garda Síochána to deal with best international practice for children. And I think we have really failed in this. But an area in the limited time that I have that I really want to mention is the treatment of the deaf community, because this is something that can be sorted really easily. Deaf people are being marginalised and excluded when they really shouldn't be. This group of citizens have been, significantly lower employment expectations and so on because of some of the measures that are in place. And the cutting of the Deaf Advocacy Service is absolutely scandalous, in my opinion, and does not take into account the real lives of deaf people. Some people think, oh sure, you bring in sign language, they can read, isn't that enough? That is not the case. 80% of deaf adults have a literacy level akin to an 8 or 9-year-old, where they can't read and write to the same level and are excluded. So things that would be simple to other people aren't available. Like you go, oh, we'll ring someone and get the information, get the support. They can't do that. They need the advocacy services for that. And I think the YouTube clip that was done by the Irish Deaf Society really highlights all of the areas where they need this. Maybe some private medical treatment that they want. Deaf parents whose children normally would read messages for them and communicate with them through sign language. If it's something about their health or a personal matter, they can't have their kids reading messages and emails and giving them them that information. You need a third party to do that, and I found it deeply regrettable that these people's first language is Irish Sign Language, and they want that language recognised, and it should be. And I find it really insulting that Minister Lynch said, put off that decision, said we need to have the services in place before we can recognise the Irish Sign Language, and then for a saving of €70,000, that advocacy service, which transforms and assists the lives of deaf people, is axed. If you're to do nothing else, reverse that one and you will be judged and benefit from that.
Thank you, Deputy Daly. Deputy